I've done a few challenge runs throughout the Souls series. Apart from a normal playthrough, I've done Soul Level 1 runs of Dark Souls and Dark Souls 3, a no bonfire run of Dark Souls 3, and right now I'm working my way through a no memory or prayer bead run of Sekiro. And I would add Bloodborne to that list if I could get past the frickin' Orphan of Kos! But while frustrating, I still enjoyed all of these runs and wanted to find other ways to challenge myself. Thus, I set out to fist all the bosses of Dark Souls 3. The rules of the run are simple. All bosses must be fisted. No swords, bows, sorceries, miracles, whips, and I can't use any fist weapons like the cestus either. This is a bare-knuckle, mano-a-mano, manly man, sensual, intimate fisting. But enough about the porn I watch. Let's talk about the bosses in the general order I fought them. Udix Gundyr was my first challenge. Yeah, 5 minutes in and I'm already having a hard time. If you've seen my Weeb run video, you'd know I died to him a couple of times, and that was with a shield and a weapon. Here I can still parry him, but I'm doing peanut damage to him. However, his first phase is fine. I've had enough practice to parry him easily enough. It's the giant pus snake that always gets me. Seriously, it's so big that it barely fits on the screen and moves in such a way and in such an erratic fashion I can't tell what it's doing. I thought about giving up here, the first boss. What was I supposed to do? Well, after dying a lot, I found the trick. I seeked out the wisest of sages atop the highest tower in the snowiest of mountains, Beyonce. When Gundyr enters his second phase, dodge the initial attack and start moving to the left. Seriously, if you do this, he can't touch you. The only time you need to dodge is when he does a jump attack, but it's so telegraphed it was simple to dodge. Keep moving to the left, give him a dead leg every once in a while, and watch him suck in his black booger. Thank you, Beyonce, wherever you are. With Gundyr out of the way, I enter Firelink, level up a bit, and head for Lothric Castle. I don't really mess with the enemies, I just kinda speedrun my way to Vort. Now immediately I'm faced with another challenge. Seriously, I was stuck on Vort for a good few hours. I honestly don't even have any good advice. His moveset is small and pretty well telegraphed. However, your small Estus pool means you can't play fetch with the dog forever. He will whittle you down given enough time. The best time to attack is when he does his 3 charges into a Frost Breath attack. Dodge the charges and quickly run behind him, and then you'll know what to do. Overall, not an awful fight, but bad enough. Good music though. The Abyss Watchers is a boss I like quite a bit. I'd probably put them low on a personal top 10 list. Phase 1 of the Watchers is all about patience. You're probably not going to have a whole lot of health or damage, so you need to pick your engagements carefully. When the second Watcher shows up, you're going to have to start running. There's virtually no safe time for you to engage with 2 fast enemies after you. Normally that would make me hate this boss. Thankfully, the third Watcher will show up and lend a hand. I use the phrase loosely. It's not so much a 2v2, but more of a 2v1v1. If you're not careful, the third Watcher will accidentally hit you. He isn't a pushover either. His attacks chunk the main Watcher, and honestly, you're going to want him to do most of the damage. Unfortunately, he has a low health pool, so if he gets ganged up on, you're going to need to help him out. Do your best to distract one of the Watchers, preferably the second one, and have the other 2 go head to head. Eventually you'll get to phase 2. What you're looking for is the Flippy Boy attack. It's usually at the end of a relatively long combo. Just keep your distance while he wildly swings his sword, and when he goes for his anime flip, dodge behind him and give him a good fisting. Crystal Sage is a boss that gave me some trouble on my first run of the game. It's mostly a DPS test on a normal run. If you took the time to beat the Watchers or Wolnir, you'll have some decent damage. If you're really good, you can beat him before he even gets to his second phase. The first phase isn't too bad, it's just you and the Sage. All of his spells are easy enough to dodge, and if you know about the exploit with the homing soul mass, you can hammer in some pretty decent DPS. Phase 2, just forget about it. All the clones will be firing different spells at you, the real Sage will be teleporting around, and you can't tell which is which until they attack. My advice? Get as much damage as possible by leveling. When he teleports, he'll usually be at the opposite side of the map, and you might as well just pray to RNGesus. Much like the Sage, the Deacons were a boss that actually gave me some trouble my first playthrough. I didn't know what to do, I was afraid to run into a crowd of enemies, and I probably didn't upgrade my weapon as much as I should have. Needless to say, it took me a few tries. With that said, I was a little worried about my damage with my fists, and that the Deacons would be a difficult fight. To my surprise, Deacons of the Deep were actually pretty easy. Make sure you have a few alluring skulls. Kill the first couple of Deacons and wait for the Pope to show up. Once he does, run all the way to the other side of the room, throw an alluring skull, and run all the way back to the Pope. From here, just keep throwing a skull and after punching the Pope a few times. Wolnir? It's Wolnir, you won't have any problems with him. So, the Dancer has always been one of those bosses that gave me a lot of trouble. It's mostly the fact I just suck at fighting her, but I'm gonna blame it on the frame rate dropping whenever she goes to phase 2. The only time I really had an easy fight with her was during my no bonfire run, but I had a freaking +8 ultra greatsword and killed her in 5 hits. This is another fight where you have to get good. She has a large moveset, and her movement is so fluid it can be hard to tell what she's doing at times. This was also the first time I used a camera, so you can see my ugly mug and the stupid faces I make. No! Be gone, thoughts! Ah!
Good job, honey.
Ah!
I would express my enthusiasm a lot more.
Pontiff is much like the Dancer, where I never really bothered to get good at him. The first time I fought him, I summoned Henri to help me out and draw aggro. My soul level 1 run, I was using a +7 raw broadsword and spammed the mess out of him. Now, I had to get good. The main thing to learn was what attacks to parry. The easiest was where he sidesteps to your left, because he almost immediately follows up with a slash with the fire sword, the only sword you can parry. All other times, don't look at me, because I have no idea what I did. Phase 2, however, you want to keep your distance and bait the jump attack. His clone will initiate a jump and lunge at you. Shortly after, Pontiff will do the same. You want to iframe the attack and follow up with a parry and get a free repost. I was so surprised that I beat Pontiff that I had to channel my inner 13-year-old. At this point, I was at an impasse. The bosses available to me were Old Demon King, Dragonslayer armor, Yorm, Aldrich, and Osiris. All these bosses wrecked me. I figured Dragonslayer armor would be a late game and I would have to wait for some DPS for DK and Osiris. My focus would be on Yorm and Aldrich. I've trained for years for this! Today is my day! Ah! Ah!
Please.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just gonna teabag Sullivan right here. Yeah. Yeah, this is what I think of you, Sullivan. Now, this is the fight I was dreading. For those of you who don't know, in the boss arena is the Storm Ruler sword. Normally, you use the sword weapon art to kill Yorm in like 5 hits. A normal upgraded weapon, you could probably do in like 5 or 10 minutes. My fist run? I looked at the time. The fight's at part 7 at the 2-hour 15-minute mark. The final hit lands at the 2-hour and 50-minute mark. I had to concentrate on dodging the boss' relatively easy dodged attacks for 35 minutes. And this is if I did it on the first try. I had multiple tries where I had gotten him to the second phase, and so that takes around 15 to 20 minutes. Seriously, it got so bad I almost broke my own rule and was going to finish him off with the Storm Ruler. But it was as if Miyazaki himself was watching and said, "No, you set yourself on this path. You must see it through." And then Yorm squishes me. Again, his attacks aren't difficult to dodge, and the stomp he does only staggers you and does no damage. But to do this for half an hour straight will wear on you. Thankfully, I was finally able to kill him, and that was a milestone I was glad to be past. Aldrich. Now, here's the thing. RNG is fine. RNG allows an enemy to be more dynamic, as they can use any attack and won't fall into an exploitable pattern. Also, I don't mind attacks that force you off an enemy. It makes it so you can't exploit a vulnerable spot too much. However, when you put those things together, you get Aldrich's Arrow Storm spam attack. Phase 1, it's alright. His attacks are slow and the arrow spam only goes in one direction. Phase 2, you have to dodge his attacks, plus the fire they leave behind, all the while you have to avoid homing spells, and now the arrow storm follows you. Its tracking isn't great and you can dodge it if you run in a big circle, but while you're trying not to get turned into a pincushion, Aldrich is in the back and shooting spells at you, and he's probably making fun of your mom too. This might not be a problem if you know how to move the camera and sprint at the same time, but I'm too lazy and missing a finger to do that effectively, but mostly because I'm lazy. Fighting the blobfish dropping was difficult enough, but the most sinful part of this fight is the spin to win attack. When you see Aldrich get ready to use that spin attack, you better dodge, because if you don't, you will break your controller. I wasn't aware of this, but Aldrich can heal himself. If he hits you with his Green Reaper merry-go-round attack, he will heal a sizable chunk of his health, meaning all that time you spent punching pudding was for nothing. This isn't the last time we'll see bosses healing themselves, and it doesn't get much better. Now, the Lizard Killing Suit is normally one of my favorite bosses to fight. Seriously, its moveset is simple yet quick. Each slam thunders as it hits the concrete, or your face. All the particle effects of smoke, wind, and lightning whenever he uses a charged attack. This boss is brutal and I love it. What I don't love are butterflies. These prancy insects flutter about showing off their colors like, "Ooh, I'm so pretty, look at me suck down some sticky nectar." But worse than that are the pilgrim butterflies. At phase 2 of the fight, they decide to bring out their inner Italian and start shooting meatballs at you. Mini meatballs, big meatballs, spicy meatballs, salty meatballs, just balls everywhere. Oh, those aren't meatballs there? Yeah, I don't care. These things drained so much of my health that I'll call them whenever I want. Seriously, if I could have just focused on the fight, I could have easily won after a few tries. But having to balance the dinosaur sodomizing vest and Italian food getting thrown at me, you're bound to slip up. I was pretty excited when I beat him, to put it mildly. I think I came a little. Thankfully, this fight didn't take me too many tries. Lorian's strikes are easy to dodge, and he doesn't really have much more than a 3-hit combo. The teleporting is kind of annoying, but I was never really bothered with it to begin with, and it's not like they spawn clones of themselves or something. Some attacks, like when Lorien sends out a cone of flames, sometimes hits me, but it's never anything serious. Even when Lothric goes for a ride on his back, he only really uses spells if you're far away. Even then, you just spam the roll button and he can't hit you. Overall, an easy fight and one that I'm thankful for. Osiris was another boss I was worried about fighting. Usually I don't have too much trouble with him, but I always feel like I'm inconsistent whenever I fight him. His second phase is so erratic I never know what he's going to do, and the whole scurrying around like a four-legged spider always puts him out of range of my fists. I don't know what happened here, but I beat him pretty easily. His insta-charge, while annoying, didn't happen as much as I worried it would. Yeah, it was simple, so moving on. Now, this is another fight I like. I love parrying this guy, as it always makes me feel like a big boy. When I fought him on my first playthrough, this guy demolished me. I didn't know how to parry, and he was so aggressive, if I tried to drink from my Estus, he would jam the bottle down my throat and steal my lunch money. But now, I have experience. Big football Chad with a halberd versus one fisty boy. I felt like a parry master. I was still doing peanut damage, but nothing was more satisfying than bringing this musclehead to his knees as I bury my fist into his chest. So, I had attempted the old Demon King several times throughout my run. Each time I was doing too little damage and decided I would come back to him. After coming back in the late game, with a little bit more DPS, I was able to beat him down. It wasn't a quick kill, as I had to use my strategies of running away and beating on him when he used a move that opened him up, like the meteors or the flame breath. I took some time to stare at his crotch, and then finished him off. The Dankless King is known as one of the hardest boss in the series. His high damage and the way he delays his attacks makes him an opponent to be feared. During the King of Storms, all of the attacks are well telegraphed and easy to dodge. My personal favorite attack is where the Nameless charges his spear to slam it down on you. You may pee your pants the first time you see it, but you'll see it's easy to dodge and allows you to get a couple of good swings in. If you're confident, you can sneak in a jab here or there in between other attacks. Now the fight with the Nameless King is all about practice. All attacks are well telegraphed, but many of his swings are delayed, so that if you're just mashing the roll button, he'll snag you and finish you off. My best advice is to delay your dodges for just half a second. It'll feel like an eternity, but you have to remain calm. If you really want to simplify the fight, but it'll take you about a year to finish it, bait out his flying attacks. The attacks where he flies straight up, wait for him to lift his spear up, and then dodge. The attack where he flies around you, as soon as he stops, wait for about half a second, and then dodge. Both attacks either leave him open for 2 punches, or he'll follow up with a quick jab that has terrible tracking, and then you can just punch him twice. Now, I need to come clean about something. You'll notice that Part 12 is missing. This isn't because of forgetfulness or an error when bringing it over from Twitch. No, this was due to shame. The stream was about 2 to 3 hours long, and it was nothing but me trying to beat the Soul of Cinder. Nothing but my failures and anger. I was beaten. I tried on and off again. In order to not waste people's time, I would play off stream. I was finally able to beat him, but it was off stream, so yeah. However, I was able to record the last 5 minutes due to the Xbox One's record feature, and while it's not much, it shows that I at least landed the last few hits with my fist. The actual fight, I don't really want to talk about it to be honest, but I'll fight past the pain and PTSD, and give all the help I can give. Soul of Cinder always begins with his longsword. This is one phase that is somewhat safe to attack. Many of his moves have long wind-up times, and when he does a flaming charge, if you can roll around him, he'll do a single long slash that leaves him open for 2 hits. If you don't, he'll hit you with 2 to 3 quick hits that can take a chunk out of your health. Another move I hate is when he raises his sword to his left side. This can be a delayed swing or an immediate swing, and there's no real way to counter it. If you roll immediately, you'll dodge the fast swing but get hit by the delayed one. If you wait for the delayed swing, you can dodge it, but if he goes for a quick swing, you'll most likely get hit. Another thing you can do is constantly run away from him and bait the overhead slam attacks. This opens him up for about 2 hits, but it can be difficult as he doesn't do it consistently, which can make the fight even longer. It should also be noted that he can be staggered. While not completely sure, I'm confident it works much like a stamina bar. Hitting him reduces it, but it will slowly regenerate, meaning you can risk an all-out aggressive attack to get staggers, or play a little more passively, letting you avoid the attacks but not getting as many staggers. Now, a majority of the time he'll go into his sorcerer phase next. This is the time to really hammer in some DPS. The flash sword and soul arrow are easy to dodge and leave him open. The Kamehameha attack, when you get around it, leaves him open to several punches. His homing soul mass will be the spell you hate the most. It's easy to bait them and go in for some attacks, but they work on a timer. It resets several times until the spells run out. So this means that if RNG is not with you, you can have the soul mass go on indefinitely. Worst of all, the spell can carry over into his other phases, meaning not only will you have to deal with the spear or the curved sword, you'll also be dealing with a spell that can stagger and or kill you. Speaking of the spear is the worst of all these phases in my opinion. Its attacks are easy enough to dodge, but can be relentless. Dodge the quick stabs, and when he winds up for a big stab, dodge and punish. Stick close since the charge attack's hitbox can be kind of weird, and the grab attack can be dodged as long as you don't dodge too early, as it will follow you. Now the worst part is his heal. He'll use a heal miracle to get a pack of significant portion of his health, and will keep healing him for a set amount of time after. It's guaranteed to happen at least once during the fight. You might be able to make it if he does it twice in the fight. Any more than that, you might as well restart the fight, as you'll most likely be down several Estus charges. I experienced fights where he would go into spear mode, go into another mode, switch back to spear, and then heal again. Much like the homing soul mass spell, it can carry over to other modes. The only counter to the homing soul mass and the heal is to stagger him. Staggering him will knock him out of the heal or soul mass, so there's another reason to keep up the aggression. The Pyromancer curved sword plays pretty much the same, just don't fight him. If you're able to make it to phase 2, things will get a little bit easier. You'll hopefully make it with a few Estus charges left, and the main attack you're looking for is the leap attack. It's a telegraphed move and rarely does Soul of Cinder follow up. If he does, you can immediately roll out of the way after punching him one time. His normal combos are slow and easy to dodge. Lightning can be dodged by spamming roll, and the main attack that got me several times was the charge attack. It's fast, so you have to be hyper aware of it. This was by far the greatest challenge I had ever overcome. Soul of Cinder made me realize something about this run. For one, the hitboxes are too good, as sometimes your hands can't even reach the enemy to hit him, so that's kind of annoying. And two, these low damage endurance fights both show off a boss's good qualities as well as their bad qualities. Soul of Cinder, Crystal Sages, Aldrich are all held back in quality by their RNG. With low damage, it can be incredibly annoying to be forced off these bosses and turning the game into a running simulator. Whereas the combat with Dragon Slayer armor, princes, or Gundyr are made better because, well, I generally like their fights. And the longer the better is what my uncle always said. Now, with all the main bosses beat, all we have left is the DLC, which generally has some high quality bosses, but the low quality ones, we'll get to them. Now, I enjoy Freed, as I find her fight pretty fair. There aren't really any attacks that seem to hit for no reason, and whenever I die it's usually because I made a dumb move. Phase 1 can be done without getting hit, and all you're doing is fishing for backstabs. Phase 2 really ups the difficulty as it becomes a gank fight. Normally, I hate gank fights, but Ariandel and Freed balance each other out nicely. Ariandel will charge you and get up in your face, while Fried will mostly focus on throwing out ice attacks. I highly recommend you keep them separated though, since if you get too close to Fried, she'll start throwing out a couple of melee attacks as well. This is problematic because Ariandel is so fat and hairy, much like my uncle, that it can be hard to see what Fried is doing. Now, Fried can heal both of them, however it takes a while for her to pull off the big heal, and she glows like a human fog light, giving you an easy backstab to cancel it. Phase 3 is much like Phase 1, but a little more pretty, kind of like my uncle. Just turn it into a badly made porno and shove your fist right up her. Now, I want to preface this by saying that I don't like Dark Souls PvP. I find it very frustrating and kind of boring. You can say I don't like it because I'm bad, and you'd be right. My response would be, I just don't play Dark Souls for the PvP. Unfortunately, the Grave 10D boys are bosses, so I have to fight them. Now, the champ fights like a coward. He hides behind a shield which blocks all damage, and his hits are quick and consecutive. What you're looking for is the running jump attack. This has him go through a recovery animation which allows you to go around him and backstab him. Easy peasy, no big deal. And if you're good at playing without locking on, unlike me, it'll be even easier. Now, like I said earlier, I don't like gank fights. O&S works because of the pillars to take cover behind, and the fact that one is faster and the other is slow makes them easily to separate. Same thing with Ariandel and Fried. One gets close and personal, and one hangs back and shoots you long range every once in a while. Even the Shadows of Yharnam work pretty well because of the different ranges and levels of aggression they have. And it's a triple gank. A bad gank is where two or more bosses / enemies are just thrown into an arena and go, good luck. The problem with gank fights is that it can be difficult to track two enemies at once, especially if both are just doing their own thing. You can have issues of layered attacks where no matter how you dodge, one of the enemies is going to hit you. This really doesn't fit with the idea of Dark Souls being tough but fair. Now back to the fight. When the champ gets to half health, he'll summon the Great Wolf. Normally, I can just wail on the guy before the wolf even gets a chance to jump in. However, because I'm doing minuscule damage, I have to deal with both of them. The champ will keep running at me trying to smack me with a sword while the wolf starts flying around like a semi through a blizzard. With the wolf jumping all over the place, it can be difficult to keep track of it, as well as the jerk who isn't wearing any pants. Now the trick is, we need to get rid of the champ, but how do we do that? When the wolf shows up, the champ will begin to use sorceries like a missile attack and a frost breath attack. When he starts using magic, that's when you want to run in and backstab him, especially the breath attack. When you're not making friends with his rear, you'll want to be running in a giant circle trying to keep the wolf in sight. Make good judgment as to when to move in to do a backstab. Once the champ is down, you'll be down several Estus, you'll be mentally exhausted, and you might have lost a finger to frostbite. The wolf's moveset is small, but very quick. Your best attack is to punish him when he tries to bite you at close range. When it buffs and start using a frost attack, you can either try and dodge through it, run up to the wolf's right side, or run far away. It'll depend on how close or far you are. Hopefully you'll have a better time than I did. The Demon Twins are much like the Dancer. I always felt like I never truly mastered their fight, and it was one I was worried about. I surprisingly only took a few tries to beat them. Again, it's a gank fight, but it's a well done one. One will start in melee mode and one will be ranged. Soon they will both be in melee. Thankfully, this won't last long, as one will soon switch to range. Then both will be ranged, and the cycle repeats. Focus on the one in melee mode first, and if possible, leave the demon below last. This is because during the second phase with the Prince of all Saiyans, I much prefer the laser attack. It's easy to dodge and get behind and just hammer in some DPS. Stay close, punch twice, dodge, and repeat. Honestly, if I could pull it off, anyone can. I hate this fight. I hate this fight so much. Why? Why is it required and Midir is optional? It should be the other way around. Let the PvP players have their own little optional boss fight they want to have. Let losers like me who have no friends just play against the good bosses. It would be different if it was just a normal PvP fight, but no, it's made in such a frustrating manner. For one, you have to listen to the giant talk every time you redo the fight. It's time consuming, and got to the point where I tried imitating him as Goofy. It's also a gank fight, and not a good one either. The enemies don't complement each other. The Painting Guardians are so spammy with their knives and attacks, they can not only heal themselves, but the boss as well. Their heals are also barely punishable. They all go off so quickly I can barely get to them in time to stop it. All the while, Half-Light is chasing you, obliterating you with his combo move, or shooting arrows at you. Speaking of, Half-Light is the cheapest PvP player ever. For one, there's the gank. 2, he is such a parry master, Pontiff and Gundyr bow before him. 3, his weapon art is such a fast combo and does so much damage, you might as well just stay away from him. His shockwave attack is barely better, but he recovers so quickly that he can go straight into the combo attack. 4, he can summon golden version of Homing Soul Mask constantly and will harass you. How did I beat him? Patience and just dumb luck. If you're able to kill both Painting Guardians, then it becomes a test of seeing how long you can stay awake for. What you're looking for is for Half-Light to pull out his bow. When he does, he wants nothing more than try and put an arrow between your eyes. Seriously, once you see him send out a wall of spears, oh yeah, another ability he has, start rushing him. Give him a wide berth to avoid the spear and any soul mass orbs that come out, and give him a backstab. Run away and repeat the whole process over again. Seriously, if you plan on doing this fight, just cheese it with an ultra great sword, or get a friend to be the boss and let you win. This is a long, frustrating, and boring fight. When it was over, I didn't cheer. I didn't grunt in excitement, as if I was constipated. I was just drained. There was no real sense of victory, just a weathered sigh knowing that it was over. Now we're at the final two, the big ones, the cream of the crop. I love these last two. Now Midir, however, can be a little long-winded, because of his gargantuan health bar among other things. But he is incredibly fair. I'd argue that there are no moves that one could call out and say that was unfair. His swipes and bites are very forgiving. If you can learn to roll through some of his fire attacks, you can get an extra punch in or two. His laser can be avoided by running to your left and then standing by Midir's left foot. I really don't have much else to say besides that it's a solid fight and one I thoroughly enjoy. I love this boss. I love this boss so much. It makes knowing Half-Light is right before it that much worse. I love everything about this boss. The lore, the moveset, the arena, the music, it's all just perfect. Seriously, if he was my uncle, he would be the cool uncle that taught you how to use a sword and crossbow, or how to do flips and summon magical skulls that cause lightning to strike wherever they land. Seriously, if you look up Slave Knight Gale Soul Level 1 Fist Only, you'd see that the guy fought Gale for 2.5 hours. Some of you might be looking at that and thinking, why would someone waste that much time? Whereas I see it and go, I'm ready to waste that much time. I like the boss that much. In terms of the actual fight, it only took a few tries. Honestly, the hardest phase is the first one because it's fast and hectic. However, after each combo, you're guaranteed several hits, and after several hits, you're guaranteed a stagger. Phase 2 is a little less crazy, but you have to be more precise with your dodges due to his cape catching a roll in the wrong direction. Third phase is a mix of 1 and 2, where it's crazy movement and your dodges need to be timed well and executed the right way. It's a great fight, and I couldn't have ended this run with a better one. This run took a long time to finish. This video took a long time to finish. I feel like I started this about a year ago. It was incredibly frustrating at times, and controller breakingly difficult, but that only made my victories that much sweeter. There may have been times it sounded like I was bragging, but if I'm being honest, I'm awful at the game. If you look at some top tier runners like Squillakilla or Nems38, they beat the game fist only in a matter of a few hours, while this took me almost a year to finish. But this was my victory. This was the challenge I set for myself, and I saw it through. If you're looking for a difficult challenge to spice up your playthrough, try fist only. It won't be for everyone. This run required a lot of patience, so if you don't like fighting the same boss for hours on end, I would recommend against it. But if this sounds like something up your alley, give it a shot. I probably won't be going through Dark Souls 3 again anytime soon, and might be looking into something like speedrunning next time I do decide to play it again. Thanks to my friend Second Soul who enjoyed my suffering on stream, my girlfriend for not smacking me for being too loud, and best of luck to my friend Taylor should he ever decide to do something stupid like this. Thank you all for watching. I hope to see you on my next stream, and here's to hoping I upload something more than once every 2 years. I wonder if Bloodborne will be any easier. Dark Souls 3 Fist Only Run finished!
Are you done?
Yes, I'm done now.